cheated on me with her ex-boyfriend, got pregnant, and made me believe the child was mine. I, 25 got cheated on by my 22-old girlfriend with her ex-boyfriend, and she made me believe the baby she was carrying was mine. There's a lot of events that preceded the said event of me being made to believe I was going to be a father. I met this girl about a year and 6 months ago. The courtship kicked off nicely. She was a nice girl, at least I thought, and she was very pretty too. Our relationship was smooth sailing in the beginning, although we had issues here and there like any other couple. She was staying about 3,040 minutes from my place. I am already a young professional who has already finished school and kickstarting his career. She was in the course of completing her studies in a local university in the same town. So this meant she was staying at a student accommodation residence, as they call it. You will remember how that setting is during our college life, when students would do all sorts of nasty things to each other when they are all under the same roof. I did not have a problem with this, as she would visit me regularly, almost every weekends most of the time. Things took a turn of the worst when the visits started becoming less frequent, and she would always claim she is busy or whatever silly excuse she had at the time. I didn't want to be selfish and want to have her all to myself with the little time she has to herself, considering she was a student and most of her time outside of school she would spend with me. That was my mistake. The visits became less frequent, and this bothered me as time went by because I had suspicions she was starting to spend time with somebody else. However, I didn't think too much into it, as I thought, oh no, she is an innocent girl and would never for whatever reason do such a thing to me given how good our relationship was. Wrong. I later discovered that she had been secretly meeting up with one of the ex-boyfriends who goes to the same college as her. How I found out would be need me to write another Reddit story. I confronted her about it, and she had no choice but to admit it, as I presented her with an overwhelming amount of evidence proving the fact. At this point, I also found out they have slept together, and I just wanted to know why. Why did she betray my trust like that, and what led her to the said incident, as I have been nothing but good to her. She insisted she was in a bad space and needed someone to talk to, and one thing led to the other, and she was sorry. She told me she would understand if I cannot forgive her of this act, as she is fully aware how wrong of her that was, and she would understand if I want nothing to do with her. I should have listened. I should have listened to her then, because what is about to follow is a series of events that led to her making me believe the child she was carrying was mine. We talked things out, and she apologized, and I had fully forgiven her for this, as she was sincere and sorry about what she did. Fast forward to 3 months later, we find out she is pregnant. Surprise! At this time, she had told me that she had cut all communication with her ex-boyfriend and they weren't in contact in any way. I later discovered that she told him about the pregnancy. However, did not tell him that she was actually in a relationship and there is a potential father of this child, as she already knew what she had done. I confronted her about this, and she confessed that she contacted him, yes, but her reasons were that she wanted him to back off so that she can continue living her life with me, who is the father of her child and partner. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I will now fast forward to when the baby was born, and I went to visit them soon, weeks after she went to labor. I spent time with them and everything was nice. We were happy that we were having a baby, and I was super excited of the idea that I am now a father. There were conversations preceding her going into labor between us pertaining the paternity of the baby, and I explicitly asked her, is there by any chance I am not the father of this baby? She reassured me that I am the father, and I should not be worried about me not fathering the child. Also, I was not about to question a heavily pregnant woman about the paternity of what could potentially be our baby. That made me feel horrible, and I stopped questioning her about this. Coming back to when the baby was born. 2 months after the baby was born, I later discovered that she had again rekindled her relationship with the said ex-boyfriend, and she was bringing the child for him to see behind my back. Mind you, this guy does not know that there is already an existing father of this baby. At this point, I catch her out in the act, and her whole lie is unrevealed. We fight over this, and I request a DNA test done so we can finish this and rule out any uncertainty. We continue to be a couple and raise the baby together. However, I told her it was only fair for the other alleged father to also contribute towards the maintenance of the child until all facts are on the table, as I had been the one supporting them throughout her pregnancy and postpartum. This happens for a period of about 2 months before the DNA test is done. Early this year the results came out saying I am not the father of this child. I am distraught, to say the least. I am disappointed in myself and for putting so much trust in one person who did nothing but break it and my heart into pieces. I have since kicked them out of my place with her child and told them they can go live their happy lives with their newly found family. To be honest, this hurts me so much. I don't go a day without thinking about them. I have already formed a solid bond with what was to be my child. Not to mention my said ex-girlfriend. All the life I knew and was preparing myself for is all gone now. A miserable a tangled web we weave, so I have been seeing my FW for over 2 years. Never been anything more and never have had aspirations for anything more. We have clear boundaries to the point where we don't check up on each other except to plan our schedules for when we meet. Social media included. Recently she fell off and she let me know she had been going through some personal issues. As the weeks went by, I grew concerned and made the terrible decision to look up her social media. Much to my surprise, it turns out she has been going out with someone. Now, it's not a surprise. She is a stereotypical AITA and frankly I'm surprised we've held together as long as we've had. I grew conflicted. On the one hand, is it my problem? Our relationship does not leave the bedroom. On the other, seeing the lovey-dovey posts about how they're each other's ride and die and other typical stuff makes me feel a certain way. In one case, she messaged me about how I missed her that day about 10 minutes after she posted a picture of them together. I did the anonymous SM accounts and tried to let the guy know that she was cheating on him, but it has not worked. I've done multiple attempts and included as much as possible from describing her intimate features and body art that no one would know to mentioning personal life details of hers. Still nothing. Of course I have pics and media, but I don't want to burn myself. She wants to get together later this week.
If you like such stories, please subscribe to my channel.
When it all went down, I'll begin this by saying this relationship ended several years ago and I've become more open to speak upon it. I was started dating this girl back when I was 18 and she was 17. We met in a mutual friend group and she rode my bus home because we lived pretty close together within walking distance. I used to work at a local grocery store near where I lived to save up for a car. Her and her family would often come in and when she did she would often seek me out. We got so comfortable with each other and her parents liked me so they invited me over to their house at the time she was seeing someone, but the relationship was terrible. He cheated. He lived so far and he was in ass so she ended up breaking it off with him shortly after we got together. We had somewhat a good but rocky relationship. When high school ended for me I started working majorly because I was living with my grandparents and didn't like to lie with them and my parents were addicts at the time. To keep a long story short, bounced between her parents. My parents' trauma went down and we had to find somewhere to go. We found an apartment. I was working 7 days a week while also in college and it was exhausting, but the relationship didn't actually get bad until about 2 years into the relationship. This girl was lazy to a point most people would be genuinely shocked. All I asked out of her was to help pay off the rent, which she did using money she got from a car accident. When she was younger I didn't make much money despite working so much, but I paid for literally everything else and never forced her to do anything. She never cleaned, cooked. She ended up dropping out of high school cause she called me 34 times a week while at work to come pick her up because she made up excuses at the nurse's office to go home, and at the time we lived on our own. It got worse when she wanted to get some cats, and the agreement was she was to care for them because I never wanted them, and it's not like I had time to anyway. I was working 70 hours a week and going to college with online classes as well for the classes I couldn't physically be there for. She never cleaned the apartment. I was hardly ever at it. Got to the point the cats just started pooping everywhere. Cloths haven't been washed in months. Dishes packed in the sink, fleas in the carpet. She flicked her cigarette ashes in the floor. I developed so much anger and resentment for her, but I never left because I was dealing with everything else. So much trauma her and her family created. About a year passed living like this, jumping to different jobs, looking for better money to pay bills. Our life had severely taken a dive because I couldn't dish out any energy. I barely ate anything. and lived off caffeine and cigarettes, but it got worse when I taught her how to drive and helped her get her license. She got herself a part-time job at McDonald's and I let her have my car while I was at work. Now's the time I tell you about her childhood friend. We can call him. He has always kinda been around and they always talked. They were equivalent to each other. He never had a job. He dropped out, does nothing but play video games and smokes weed. Now I didn't live too far from where I worked, but it started getting weird how I started seeing him so often. Had be in my car while she picked me up from work. Now I'm not going to lie, I knew what was happening, but I played ignorant. I didn't care. I was so drained every day. I just wanted sleep to wake up and do it again the next day, but I built my resentment even further. It got to the point we stopped sleeping in the same bed. I just couldn't be around her for longer than 10 minutes without being severely pissed about everything. I had no one to go to and I was in such a deep depression, and no one knew because it seemed normal from the outside. I mean, what could I have done more? I literally did her school work for her so she could graduate, helped her through her dad's death, paid for everything she had, clothes, food, even bought her a car that drove fine, but the radio was busted so she didn't like it, and we sold it to pay the bills. More and more she would take off with my car to do dumb shit with them and their friends, but I would have to beg her to just help me clean the apartment. It all came to an end when I got off early at work and came home to see them sleeping on the couch together, and for the first time it wasn't anger but numbness, incapable to feel anything. But my first thought was finally the push off the cliff. I needed to get away from this. When she woke, she came upstairs, sat down next to me and just asked, "So are we over?" I just said, "Yeah, I'll be out within the month. I'd rather not live in this disgusting apartment anymore." I left, found my own place and began to build a new life. For 12 years gone like that, I still feel numb. TBH, I've been building myself for the past 3 years and can say that with confidence that I'm a good-looking guy now. My apartment is nice and clean. I can cook for myself, even had a handful of one-night stands, but I still have a hard time trying to create an emotional bond with anyone. I lack the care or motivation to try, but some nights to get lonely, and am fixing to go back to school and get an apprenticeship while maintaining gym time and a job. For those who are wondering, I heard she had to find a job and work a lot of hours for the two of them to make it. They got evicted because of how disgusting the apartment was, or she couldn't pay rent, and I took my car so she and him had to walk everywhere. Don't know where they are now and don't really care too much, and being that is one of my first posts, I'm sorry if made some mistakes, and if you want more details, link, because much more happened than I have told. Thanks for reading. Is this cheating? Ex-partner, 38F, lesbian, claims to have platonic relationship with best friend. During the 10 months we were together, partner would never invite me to hang out with her and her best friend. Only met this friend once and for a few hours. Every week they have scheduled video game time together and would never invite me to join. They spend at least 1 week a month visiting each other, and she would get upset if I even called her during this time, always claiming it's my vacation and says I'm ruining her time. I was never allowed in their space. Constantly felt like the third wheel in my own relationship. She claims to only want to spend quality time alone with friends on a one-on-one basis. However, when we would be together, she would always bring him in our space by constantly texting him, making me feel like I wasn't good enough or even there. This summer she decided it was more important to go on a vacation with him and not invite me. This was particularly painful, seeing as I had that week off from school and all I wanted was to spend it with her. This ultimately led to our breakup. She once stated that he has a small dick and can't get a GF, yet she always seemed to act like his GF to me. When I brought this up, she immediately